The Jill and Stacy Show.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I'm really excited to host this town hall tonight. We don't often have where we have our city, county, and state officials here, so I'm really excited about that. But first, I would really like to thank the pastor of this church, Travis Kaiser and Florence Baptist, for all the work in the ministry that you do in this community and being so gracious to host us tonight. So thank you so much. So I am Marianne Proctor. I am State Representative of District 60. I represent Union and portions of Florence. And I'm glad to be joined tonight by our county commissioner, one of our county commissioners, Jesse Brewer. And we have Mayor Larry Solomon, who represents Union. So We've got a few other elected officials here in the crowd. Another county commissioner back there is Chet Hand. Steve Rawlings. Well, he's become kind of like my brother, so I can kind of ignore him most of the time. Thank you guys for being here. I don't see any other ones out there. I'm missing it. So this is how we're going to roll tonight. So I think it's really important to discuss some of these issues. I know some of them are kind of some hot topics. So what we're going to do is Commissioner Brewer is going to start off and talk about some of the issues of the county, followed by Mayor Solomon, some of the things going on in Union, and then I'll conclude with some of the amendments. We're going to keep our discussions pretty brief because I really want to leave ample time for you all to ask questions. The format tonight is not a debate, and I'm not here to persuade you on how to vote one way or the other. I'm just here to give you facts. So we'd like to keep it question and answer, and we will answer the questions best of our ability. So I'm going to start off the evening with Commissioner Brewer.
All right, thank you. So I did prepare a few slides, if you guys can see them okay. If you guys want to take down my information, email right there, ask me any questions or copies of these slides, and I'd be happy to send them to you guys. What's that too close?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. It's because you're older and more wiser than I am, a lot more wisdom than me. So I'm in my second term with the county now. I came in 2019. So I used to be the young kid on the block until Commissioner Hand got elected. So I feel like I'm the older, wiser middle brother kind of situation going on. So I've lived in Boone County now I'm born and raised in Ohio, but I've lived in Boone County 25 years. It's over half my life, so I feel I've earned a right to complain about traffic and everything else like everybody else does, because I've lived here long enough and I feel like I've earned those stripes to do things. So, you want to hit my slide here? So the first thing I want to talk about is the medical marijuana decision that we made. So you guys have probably seen a lot of the news headlines about the cities legislating on medical marijuana. And so at the county, we decided to restrict all of it. Not do a ballot initiative, not permit it or that. And the reason is because there was a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding about what we were legislating on. We were getting a lot of folks that thought we were legislating on the use. Well, that was already passed in Frankfurt. And so what this was just purely zoning to allow the shops to come in, and you couldn't pick and choose because there was like segments of the law that were manufacturing or that were processing or distribution. And so we decided that because this was very new and we didn't want to necessarily put the county into a spot where we're stuck with something we didn't want, we kind of let this play out and let with anything new, technology, laws, or anything, let the bugs work themselves out. Because we can always opt in later, should we choose to. So we opted, and we spoke to a lot of constituents. We heard from a lot of folks that said, we don't want to see it, it's just too new, we don't know what's going on. So that's why we decided just to not allow it at all. Let's see what happens, and if we choose to opt in later, we have that option to do so later. Because right now, it's that it was an all or nothing. We couldn't say yes to the manufacturing or yes to the processing, but no to the dispensaries. And so that's why that's the choice we made. There's a lot of big retail developments and a lot of other companies that, hey, if you have dispensaries there, we don't want to go there. And so keeping that in mind and knowing the needs of our community and listening to our constituents, we decided let's just stop. Let's see how this goes. Let's see what new legislation comes out of Frankfurt on this and what develops, and then we can always revisit it later. So that's the option we took for the medicinal marijuana. You can still use it if you have the valid card and excuses and things like that. Does not prohibit that. It's just a pure zoning play of allowing the business to be in the county is the stance we took. So
Countywide.
so we'll get into that with the question and answer section. It's not countywide, and we'll get into that a little later. It's unincorporated countywide. The cities still have the option to do something different. So the question was that countywide? And the answer is unincorporated countywide, which is about 85% of the county, I believe, is unincorporated. A lot of people don't know, but like Heber and Burlington are unincorporated. People think, a lot of people are surprised to hear that that's not a city. So is unincorporated countywide? Yes, but we'll get into some more of that later. So next I'll talk about county infrastructure, because that's kind of where my lane is serving the county and the needs of the county. One of the things is we were the first county in the United States to bring broadband internet availability to every single household, regardless of where you live. If your driveway is a half a mile off Ashbury Fork Road, or you live in Valley Shannon subdivision, you can get up to 1 gig of fiber through our partnership with Alta Fiber. And we were the first ones to start that. We started the process back in 2021 during the pandemic was going full swing. Actually 2020, I'm sorry. The pandemic was in full swing. Kids couldn't go to school. Seniors couldn't go to health appointments through telehealth. They couldn't get an internet signal. So we partnered. We had our own infrastructure fund that we'd started through our ad valorem taxes, which I'll talk about in a second. And we started to bring broadband internet to the underserved parts of western Boone County. And then as things progressed, ARPA funds got released from the federal government. We were already halfway over around second base in the broadband project compared to everybody else. We decided to wire the whole damn county. And we did. And we were verified the first county in America to bring, and we're complete, by the way, with that project. We are complete. As of March of 2024, we are complete. Regardless of where you live in the county, if you don't have 1 gig of fiber, it's because you didn't want it, is where we're at with that. So that's something we're really proud of that we were able to do as part of our infrastructure project. Next I'll talk about is the next slide, rural water. So a lot of people don't know this, but the western part of our county, a lot of it doesn't have running water. So we started during the same time frame because we got all these restricted funds from the federal government. We kind of nicknamed them the Biden bucks because that's but it was the ARPA funds, it was CARES Act money, and so they come with strings of what you can do with it. And so infrastructure improvements is one of them. Well, water is an infrastructure, and for years, a lot of the western part of the county doesn't have running water. We actually have right now one public school that doesn't have running water, Kelly Elementary. Hey, I see your face. I see it. We are now solving that problem, but they were relying on well water. And so through the rural water phases, we are now on phase 3.0. We have brought running water, and there's some metrics you got to meet, like they put surveys out, it's got to hit a certain density. We need over at least 50% of the homeowners that are willing to tap in to the water, because it's expensive to run these lines down to make sure. So there's a lot of planning and engineering work that goes into this. But once they decide, yes, we're going to do it, we've brought water now close to 700 something houses. Those numbers are rounded, obviously. And we're going to be working on phase 4 next. So that's a big thing, because whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, I don't care what your party is, running water is something, clean water is something we all want and need, right? And there's been a really big push for that, and like I said, the other parts of the west rural parts of the county. Now, we do have some parts of the county that's like got a mile-long road with 3 houses on it. Those folks, they bought in out there. We're not going to be able to physically use tax dollars to bring them water, unfortunately. But the ones that, we got 30, 40, 50 houses within a few mile stretch that we just didn't bring the water to out there, those are the phases that we're really drilling down on and working on bringing them running water. And we're proud to say, like I said, we are in 3.0 right now and soon to go to 4.0. So that's something that on the infrastructure side that we've really worked hard to push for to get done. And then my next slide I want to talk about, before I hand it over, is our county roads. So our legislative delegation has brought home a lot of big state road funding projects, which we're glad for. We're really, Pleasant Valley Road. I live off Mount Zion. If you've driven down, Mount Zion was that thing took forever and 18 years to build. I think they started that back when I was in middle school. It feels like. But it is amazing. I love Mount Zion Road now. Where I live right across the street here from this church. And so the Mount Zion Road now has been an amazing improvement and change, which is a state project. It's been years in the making. 237, 42, the jug handle, which I know some people hate it. I remember living here, like I said, like 25 years, where it stunk. So the jug handle, for me, being here 25 years, is an improvement. It's still confusing, I get that. But the roundabout, you see, and things like that. So there's been some improvements on the state road front. We've been very fortunate to get what we get here. But what people don't realize is we have 455 lane miles of county roadway in the rural parts of the county. Not necessarily all rules, a lot of subdivision routes, things like that the county has to maintain. That's all on us. We have 55 bridges in Boone County. 55 bridges in Boone County. 7 of them still have wooden guardrails.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's exactly. 7 of them still have wooden guardrails. So we have to come up with a plan for that. So the state has this very archaic formula that predates Marianne, predates a lot of us, called the formula of FIS, which is the gas tax, right? How they chop it up for the county road aid. Well, in 2014, so I'm going back 10 years now, Boone County got just shy of $1.2 million in county road aid. This year, we're getting $815,000. Right? It's like, so, and when you index that against inflation, we're getting less. And that's the whole conglomerate of Frankfurt. We got our delegation down there like screaming and yelling like, hey, we got all these roads up here, we got these jobs, but Frankfurt down there, they just do what they're going to want to do, regardless of how good or much of our delegation pushes for us. And I know they fight for us because I'm on the calls with them. I hear it. They're calling me like, hey, what do we need? And so we're really trying for that. But at the end of the day, that's what we're going to get. And so here at the county, while we have a lot of brokenness in Frankfurt, we had to make some conscious decisions like, what do we got to do? I've got roads that are crumbling. I got roads that are sliding off hills, and we've got to make these repairs. So we were able to look at our ad valorem tax revenues for the 3rd year in a row coming in, and we restrict the revenue from that to county roads. So right now, unless a future administration changes that, we have accumulated a $1.9 million recurring revenue source to fix our county infrastructure because it's aging. We have a lot of aging infrastructure that we have to take care of, and there's a lot of tax reform that they're fighting for in Frankfurt, and we're helping them fight for that. But that might, who knows when that's going to be able to happen, because there's a lot of other around the state influences. You get outside of northern Kentucky and go to other parts of the state, you might as well be on Mars sometimes. It's this totally different world. And I always like to joke, like, Frankfurt's not Republican, Democrat. It's a rural versus urban a lot of times. And so we are part of the golden triangle where they will take up from us all they want. They don't want to give it back. We're too far north and they think we're part of Ohio, so they don't want us, but they want our tax dollars, right? And so we're in this weird, like, stepchild conundrum, like, what do we do? So I said, in fashion, the last couple of years, we're going to do what Boone Co does, and we're just going to solve the problem ourselves until we can get it figured out. And so that's what we've been working on to do. And so unless a future administration changes that, we will have a recurring 1.9 million, just shy of that revenue each year, that we can take that, we can put that for grants, and we can put the 20%, 30% down, matching federal and state grants, and really make an improvement impact on all of our county infrastructure. Which is what we really need to do to make it safe for everybody. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party. If you're driving on the road, you want it to be a safe road for you and your kids, and that's what we're about with that. So that's all I really got in the county front. I know we're going to turn it over to Solomon here, and I'll be obviously here to answer any questions if we have anything on that. But that's just a high level of where we're at.
Thank you, Jesse. And I'm sure that there's going to be questions. What I'm going to ask you to do is wait till we're all done, because we may answer some of those questions along the way, and we'll hold all those questions to the end to make sure that we get to all those. So, without ado,
All right.
Mayor.
Thank you. How you doing?
Yay.
Good. Most of you know me. I've been around for about 10 years. Our administration came in about 10 years ago, and we have a few projects that are going on in the city, if you can tell. And for those of you that have lived in Union or near Union for over 10 years, you can tell quite a difference between then and now. And the projects that what I want to talk to you tonight about are several projects, and the first one is the Union Town Square, where we're at with that. And then I want to talk to you about Graders, Braxton, and Dewey's, and that's one that's kind of close to my heart. So that's coming in. And then we'll talk about the Union Promenade, and I brought a little help with me tonight. TJ Shuddy is the real estate person for the Promenade, so he can give you a rundown and update as to each of the retail outlets that will be going in there. And then I got a couple other projects to talk to you about. Okay, let's flip to the Union Town Square. And if you can see that map behind me, let's help you get the bearings straight. If you look to the left, this side, this side, that is New Union 42. And if you go above, that street that's going horizontally is Brilliance Avenue. Okay, so that's where Union Affinity Apartments are. If you go a little further north, then there's a Promenade. You go a little bit south, there's the Union City Building and the Union 42 in Mount Zion Road. Okay, so everybody knows where I'm talking about. In front of the property that we have, you see a sign that says the Future Town Square. Okay, so everybody knows where we're at. Okay, about 5 years ago, that property was owned by Mr. Grammis, Nick Grammis, and his father Paul. And we purchased that from them for $4 million. Now, they were offered $5.6 million for it, but they decided to sell it to us for $4 million. Because when you purchase something from the city, you get your money right away. If somebody buys it, they got to go through the planning and zoning and all that stuff. That would take a lot of time. So he sold it to us for $4 million. Okay. From that time, we then started to do our planning. And what I want to do is give you an update as to where we're at with that. Okay. So if you take a look at the square, the circle that's going to be there is going to be a gathering place for residents to come, and there's going to be a stage there. So it'll be a big flat area. People come play Frisbee and that stuff. We'll hold concert events and that stuff on the stage that's right next to it. If you look to the far left, say it's 2 o'clock on the circle, that's going to be a splash pad for kids. Just below it at 3 o'clock is going to be a playground for younger and older kids. And then right at 4 o'clock will be a swing sets and for a sensory area for autism kids and such, so that they can come to have access to that. At the bottom will be walking trails through the woods that are going to be still there. We're going to have that developed. The lake to the left is it's a really it needs a lot of work. But it's going to be an upstanding lake that people can go and walk around and enjoy that. To the far, if you go around to say 7 o'clock, like you're thinking on a clock, that's going to be a garden area where adults can come and sit, and it's a quiet area for people to rest and relax. And then the part around where it's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock will be an adult physical workout place where you go and work out. So I probably won't be there, so I'm too old for that stuff. But the real thing that's the most important thing is if you look in the upper left-hand corner, that's going to be our new city building. We are going to get a new city building, and we desperately need one because we have that building that we're in right now was built for a mayor, a clerk, and an assistant clerk back in 1980 something. So we have a staff now that's like 6 or 7 people. They're tripping over each other, and we desperately need a new city building. So we're incorporating that into our plans. Now you're going to say, well, okay, how did you fund this? Okay, all the funds that go into the new town square come from our payroll tax, and it goes directly into the city growth fund, directly from the tax to that fund, and that's what's funding that project. So that's our town square, and that's our update. Our staff went down to the architect today, and they're going to give us a briefing as to where they are at our caucus meeting on Monday. Okay, so that's our town square. Let's go to the next one. Graders, Braxton, and Dewey's. How many like beer? Okay, I shouldn't raise my hand. I'm not supposed to do that. We're in church. I apologize. How many like ice cream? All right, let's start with that. Okay, thank you. Woo! Almost got in trouble, Brewer. Anyway, and we're really proud of that. I've knocked on a lot of doors last year, and many of those doors I knocked on were probably yours. One of my favorite lines was, do you know like Graders is coming? They go, no. And I say, well, it is, and you know how it got here? And they go, how? And I go, this guy. Because Rich Grader's my lodge brother, and it took me about 5 years to talk him into considering coming to Union. And he did, and he opened up that Graders. The first week that Graders was open, thanks to all of you, that Graders outdid every store in his chain. He has 56 stores. It outdid every store in his chain. It is now one of the top 5 Graders in the whole Grader stores, and we're really proud of that. I talked to Jay Rouse, who's the CEO of Braxton today, and they're working on getting theirs done. And that picture that's behind you, that you see to the far right, there's going to be an open area between Graders and Braxton. That's going to be an event center. So they're going to have tents that are going to come up there, and you're going to be able to have events that are going to carry on right there. So there will be Graders, Braxton, and Dewey's all in one spot. So it's going to be really kind of cool. And I hope that you all enjoy it. And the guys from Braxton want to make that Graders there the #1 store in the Graders chain. And that's what their goal is, and that's what they told me. So it's going to be nice. Look for, they said something about November, but probably December or something like that. They'll probably look for openings. Probably Braxton will open before Dewey's. So that's the status on that. Okay? All right, let's move to the promenade. And if you remember, the promenade was 3 properties: the Smith property, the church property, and the Frolicker property. And so they merged together to come together to create the promenade. And the promenade was put together by the developer T.J. Ackerman and Ralph Meyer-Johann. And they came to us with a promise, and the promise was that we will have an entertainment district that would be there for the retail, in addition to the townhomes and the patio homes. And then the part on the far right which is where Children's Hospital was, originally was a promise to bring some business into Union. And thanks to TJ Shuddy, and I give him a shout out every chance I get, that he led the charge to bring us Children's Hospital. And if you have your phone on silence, you might want to do that because mine just went off. So, but he brought that to us, and it's the thing about. What's that?
Come on.
I know, Jesus. Can't take me anywhere, can you? And the thing about that is that Union has always been known as a bedroom community, and for years it has. And when it comes to restaurants and that stuff, a bedroom community means that a restaurant sometimes don't want to come here. Why? Because there's no lunch traffic, and because we're a bedroom community. People get up and go to work. They go into Cincinnati to work. They come home. They go out to dinner, and they'll have go to a restaurant in the evening. But lunchtime crowds are that makes it reluctant for them to come to Union. And one of the things that we really want to do is to bring in lunchtime and business crowds in. And Children's Hospital, by coming there, they'll be able to bring their workers there, and they'll be able to and enjoy lunch at the promenade or wherever they want to go, or to some liquid refreshment at the end of a work shift. So nothing better than liquid refreshment at the end of a work shift. So that is helping us to bring that in. And we're represented now by 3 hospital entities: St. Elizabeth, Christ, and Children's. And so we'll get into that when we turn over to Marianne, but that is helping us to build our lunchtime crowds, okay? So they promised us an entertainment district, and we defined an entertainment district as follows. Each of those properties on the retail side that you see behind me, up on the top of this slide, are represented by buildings that are conducive to restaurants or office buildings that were 6,000 to 12,000 square feet. That was in the design, with appropriate parkings for each one of those buildings. In addition to I think I got it.
Sure.
No, I'm slow on the uptake, but there you go. Okay, so each one of those was 6,000, 12,000 square feet, and with appropriate parking. And with 2 other rules that are in place was that 2 were allowed to have drive-throughs and 2 were allowed to have pickup windows. And from a list of appropriate businesses that would include even grocery stores, if they fell within that, then they could go into there. So that would be defined as an entertainment district. A lot of you were around with the Aldi issue. Well, the reason that the city did not choose or turn down that request was because, not because of Aldi's, was because they wanted a variance from that entertainment district rule. And what they wanted to do was take lots 2 and 3, which were right next to the UDF, and make one of them a 20,000 square foot building and put a parking lot next to that. And what that would do would change the complexion of an entertainment district. Because if we granted that, then what would happen would be that the next guy comes along and goes, well, you gave it to them, you can give it to us too. And the idea and the concept of an entertainment district would be gone. And so that is why that the Union Commission voted it down. And that's why we did not go ahead. It had nothing to do with Aldi. I like Aldi's, as a matter of fact. So, but it did not have to do that. So the good news is that the developer is working with us to stay within those guidelines and to bring the Union an entertainment district. Because one of the things when we knock on doors, people in Union, and I say this no offense to people in Florence, is the fact that Union wants to be uniquely Union. They do not want to be like Florence. And so that entertainment district was important to us because it kept us uniquely Union. And that was the decision that we made, okay? The update on these stores, I'm not very good at doing that. TJ, come on up here and tell them what the status is on each of the stores.
TJ, can you just keep that brief, because we maybe can address that at the end?
Yeah.
If you've
Sure,
got lots
sure.
of specific questions.
Hi, I'm TJ Shine. I'm a commercial real estate agent with KW Commercial. And as Larry mentioned, I represent TJ Ackerman and Ralph Meyer, John, the master developers on Union Promenade. I like visual aids, so I'm going to come back over here. As Larry mentioned, the apartments, in total, we're going to have 289 apartments. Phase 1, if you drive by, you can see is under construction. It's the first 4 buildings. The one building is complete, and they opened for tenants about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's almost full. The other buildings are right behind that. And so if you haven't stopped by, I invite everybody to stop by and walk into the clubhouse. It is the nicest apartment clubhouse I've ever been in. And they'll give you a tour of the apartments. They're very, very high end. And the one bedrooms are starting at $1,600 like almost all apartments today. So the apartments are really nice. They're coming along. This section here, the developer sold 6 to 7 acres off to Trees. And Trees is building the patio homes. Last time I checked with Trees, they are selling those as fast as they're building them. And of course, as Larry mentioned over there, we sold, earlier on, we sold 6 acres off to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. If you look on our design, it looks like 2 buildings. The one on the 45-degree angle, that's what's currently under construction. That is 30,000 square feet, single story. Cincinnati Children's has designed this for expansion. So they've got all their parking and they're leaving green space. So the other angled building is a potential phase 2 of 20,000 square feet. As far as the commercial lots, we have, as Larry mentioned, part of this, when I brought this to Union, we got the Union City involved. I live in Union. We wanted this high end. We wanted it nice. We wanted it different. So we did get 11 different commercial lots with 11 buildings and 11 parking lots, as Larry mentioned. So I started down here with number 11 on the corner. We actually closed on that lot last week with Fifth Third. Fifth Third wanted to be where the money is. Union's where the money is. So they're building a freestanding branch there. The lot next to it, lot 10, is one of the 3 lots that the master developers are building multi-tenant buildings, retaining ownership of. Right now in lot 10, we haven't started construction. We're very close to starting construction on that. Right now I've got 1 confirmed signed lease on that lot with a bourbon cigar lounge. And then we've got a number of other LOIs. We're trying to fill that building out and get that done. Lot 10, we have under contract with Thomas English. Thomas English is a developer out of Indianapolis. They do build-to-suits for McAllister's. So we're getting ready to close on that the first week of November. They've already got their building done, the design. So that's going to be a little bit smaller building for just McAllister's, and they'll have 1 other tenant. Lot 8 is under contract with Chick-fil-A. Lot 7 is one of the gateway buildings. So 6 and 7 are the gateway buildings. Lot 7, we have a signed lease with El Asadero. I'm from here. I live in Union. I wasn't familiar with El Asadero. We did a little research. They're down in Lexington. They're kind of like the Mikazarels around here. They're the $24 margarita fish bowls with fireworks coming out of it. And it's very family-oriented, very sit-down family restaurant, 6,000 square feet. And then lot 6, in the back, we now have open for business Elite Med Spa and Glamour Nails. And we just signed a lease for 2 more restaurants in the front of 6, so hopefully that can be announced and moving soon because the building's built. Lots 4 and 5, early on we sold to another local developer. So we have, that's the only thing really on there that I have no control over. Those buildings are under construction as you drive by, and you've seen some signs for some of their tenants. 2 and 3 are the only lots that are still available at the Union Promenade right now. And then of course, lot number 1 is UDF. Thank you.
The developer that he's talking about is Hamal Sony. I don't know if you know that. And they're going to be bringing in Schlotsky's restaurant, and they signed a thing for Hot Works Spa. Yeah, I guess so. And a tropical smoothie restaurant. Okay, my last projects that we have going on. How many of you are, where the old Kroger store is, right? How many of you have been looking at that old Kroger store and saying, what the heck's going on over there? Okay? Thank you. She's over there, yes. Well, today, I just got texted from Kroger and from the school board that they signed a contract, and that building is going to be a preschool for the Boone County School Board Board, they signed a contract with Kroger to purchase it. So that's going to be in effect. It was kind of stalled on, and so I called both parties up and I said, what's going on? And so I got a meeting with them last week and moved it off dead center, and they sent the contracts to each other. And I got a text today from Don Barnett from Kroger and said it's signed and they're moving forward with that. So look for, what that's going to be is that there's going to be 400 students and 50 workers that are going to be there for preschool, and they'll be school bused in on a regular basis. And that should be, they originally promised that to us 25, 26. When I talked to them, they were talking about 27, 28. Basically, we got them to move. Now they're talking 26, 27. So that's going to be a preschool, and the school board is going to own that old Kroger store. So we're finally get that off dead center. Union Point Center across from Ryle High School. Let's be honest, that place has a hard time to get into, and everybody knows it, right? And what we told the developer was that is a good place for destination purchases, or destination stores, like a beauty salon, and they'll do well there. And so that if you're, or a doctor's office where you have an appointment and you got to be there, so you'll figure out how to get in, right? Or a liquor store, which they have one there, and I guess they're doing well because everybody figures out how to get into a liquor store, I guess. But the one issue that really came up with these guys was they wanted to put a vape shop in that store. And went over and talked to Matt from Boone County Schools and the principal over there, and he goes, please don't do that. And we put together a piece of legislation that bans vape shops 1,000 feet away from any public property, including schools. So we will not give them a business license, so you will not see a vape shop in that Union Town Square. So. Because they won't get a business license for it. Yeah, so, vape shop. Yeah, got it, okay. All right, and the last thing is that the property that is next to us, where our city building is owned by Christ Hospital. And they own the land, and they're waiting to see what comes out of the CON issue, Certificate of Need. And to determine that what they decide to build, because however it comes out is how they're going to develop that property. So they're in limbo until that decides on it. So our stance from the city is three things. Number one, we're the only city that has representation, as I said earlier, from three hospital entities: St. E's, Christ, and Children's. And I've told each one of the principals for each one of those businesses that we want to treat them fair and equally, and we want them all to thrive within the city of Union, and that's what we plan to do, and we have been treating them equally. So my hope, as I'm passing the baton to Marianne, is that this gets resolved as soon as we can possible, because I support CON.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, thank you guys so much for that update on what's going on in the city and the county. I'm glad you're with me on repealing Certificate of Need, because I sure would like, even though we do have physician services of those other places, they are not full hospitals, and they are limited only to certain services because of our highly restrictive Certificate of Need laws. But that's not really all what I want to talk about tonight. We're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about the amendments that are coming up. And you guys are probably going to want to give yourself a hold of one of these. It's the Kentucky Constitution, because you're going to have to understand some of this if you really want to be fully informed on the amendments. So you're going to flip that for me. Okay, so I'm going to start off with ballot initiatives are inherently confusing. So the first one that you see up there is, this is what the City of Union, so in the City of Union, and Florence did the same thing. They opted to put on the ballot the initiative, the medical marijuana, leave it up to the voters. I think what's important for you to understand is what all that entails. Do you know that one? Okay, so this is a resolution. I don't know if you can see this. This is a resolution that the City of Union passed, I believe, in June. And it outlines, if you can see on there, what the medical marijuana businesses consist of. And Commissioner Brewer talked about that. When you get the license, this is what you get. So Tier 1 on the cannabis cultivator, okay, Tier 1 is, you can see up there 1 to 5,000 square feet would be a small facility. Tier 2, you can see they keep getting bigger till Tier 4. That's a full-blown industrial plant. You may get the license for that because you don't know what you're getting if you say yes to this. So the other things that you could get are the dispensaries, which are the people that are selling, and I think that's what most people think. And some people may think that this marijuana, medical marijuana, are you voting? If you're voting yes, are you voting to make it legal? The General Assembly voted to make it legal January 1, 2025. What this is asking you is, do you want these businesses here in Union and in the city of Florence? So you also have the processors. The processors, they extricate, they do the infusions, they're the ones that are working all that to make your gummies, your edibles, that's what they do. And then you have your producers. They can both grow and process plants. So that's your warehouses with your marijuana sitting in there. That could be coming. And then we also have safety compliance. They test the samples to make sure that they're meet regulations. I don't know what regulations are meeting because marijuana is still a Schedule I drug and not regulated by the FDA. So on this amendment in Florence, the city of Union, the city of, what they are asking you, a yes is you want all of these businesses because you don't know what you're getting. So if you think it's just a dispensary, that's not the complete picture. So hopefully this helps you understand what a yes on do you want medical marijuana, I think it says medical cannabis and other cannabis businesses. These are your other cannabis businesses. So hopefully that's clear. Thanks. Now, let's go to Amendment 1. Okay, there is a constitutional amendment, Amendment 1. How many of you guys have even heard of this? I'm just curious. Has anybody heard? Yay, an educated audience. I'm excited about that. Okay, so what Amendment 1 does, it closes the loopholes on letting non-citizens vote in our elections. It seems kind of straightforward, since we have federal laws that say that you can't have non-citizens voting in our elections, but indeed they are. So in Kentucky, what we did, the legislature this session, we passed House Bill 341, which put on the ballot for you all to decide. Do you want to keep non-citizens from voting in our elections? If you do, that is a yes on Amendment 1. If you are fine with non-citizens voting in our elections, then you would be a no. So it's really pretty clear. So what the wording on there, so it specifically adds language to sections 145 and 155, and you should read it because it's kind of fun. It says who can vote in our elections, and it even says people who are idiots are not allowed to vote in our elections. But there's not a statute that defines an idiot, so I don't know. That was fine in 1955. It really does. In 1955, that's what it was. So anyways, so it will say on your ballot, you will see, and I don't know if you can see it there, it says no person who is a citizen of the U.S. shall be allowed to vote in this state. If that's what you want, it's a yes. Okay? If you don't, it's a no. Okay, Amendment 2. All right, this one has been so much fun. How many of you guys have heard of Amendment 2? Okay. You know, it's frustrating as a legislator. The messaging on both sides has been a disaster, really, for us. It's not as complex as people want to make it. The straightforward part of Amendment 2, it does not create a new law. It simply clarifies. The Kentucky Constitution does not prohibit the General Assembly from funding students outside of the common schools in the future. Okay? Why did this come about? In 2017, the General Assembly passed legislation to make charter schools legal in Kentucky. Unfortunately, they didn't fund it until 2022. In 2021, the General Assembly passed a thing that's called Education Opportunity Accounts. These are private donations made to these accounts for tax deductions, and these would have been distributed to low-income students that would have qualified. And to qualify for that, it's 175% above the poverty level, depending on how many people you have in the household. That varies, but for a family of 4, that would have been about $54,000. Our Supreme Court, Kentucky Supreme Court, found that these things were unconstitutional based on, there's language in Amendment 2 up there, you probably can't see it, where it says notwithstanding. Let me get it so I can read it, because I can't even see that. Okay, so it talks about notwithstanding sections 59, 60, 171, 183, 184, 186, 189. I seriously doubt when you go to vote that you're going to have a copy of the Constitution with you and see what all these sections are. All those have to do with funding. Not see my papers.
I love it.
I've been sitting in education committee all day and then in transportation all the time. Okay. So the Kentucky Supreme Court struck that down in December of 2022. And so now what we did is we put House Bill 2 this year, we passed, to give to the voters on how do you want to vote on this. All Amendment 2 does, you've seen lots of stuff. It's going to guarantee raises. It's going to bankrupt the state. It's going to rob all the money from the schools. None of that is true. All of this amendment does, it allows the General Assembly to be able to discuss what would it look like to have school funding outside of the common schools in the future. That's all. This has been branded as a voucher program. That is a lie. This has been branded as, oh, these are going to pump all the money into private schools. That is not true. Nowhere in this ballot does that say this. The reason why we had to make this a constitutional amendment is because the Supreme Court ruled what had already passed on charter schools and these educational opportunity accounts, said it was unconstitutional, and they particularly got hung up with Section 183. So this is why we have to have the language that says that we can do this. So this one is really confusing. When you read this, I'm not going to lie, I was asking my colleagues today, I said, when people see it's proposed that a new section be added to the Constitution of Kentucky to read as follows. The General Assembly may is very different from shall. Shall, you have to. May, it's optional. The General Assembly may provide financial support for the education of students outside the system of common schools. The General Assembly may exercise this authority by law, sections, and it lists all the sections of this Constitution notwithstanding. And people are like, what does that mean? Notwithstanding just means that we are able to complement the language in here, not conflict with it. All right, so it's that's really all it is. And then I've heard people say, well, if all these kids leave public schools, it's going to bankrupt the schools. Well, that's myopic. If you don't understand how schools are funded, you may say that because you'll say, oh yes, you're going to lose some SEEK funding. But that's one part of the pot. All of you got your property tax bills this month, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see 64% of that is school tax?
Yep.
Yeah.
That money is local money, stays right here. The state doesn't touch it, federal government doesn't touch it. Every penny of that stays right here. The other part of funding comes from the state. We fund transportation. Transportation is funded 100%. Say you lose 10 kids. So instead of busing 100 kids, you're busing 90 kids. It's not going to change the transportation money that's coming back to the district. Teacher pensions, benefits, insurance, funded by the state. That money, if you lose 10 kids, and so now you're down to 90, the state is not going to claw back that money. So you have to look at all the different pots that fund public education. So you can make that decision. I'm not trying to make that decision for you. I'm just trying to help you understand what this amendment does, because it's had really bad messaging on both sides. It really is. Are you okay with allowing the General Assembly to have a conversation, because that's all this does. And I can tell you there's no legislation down there. We don't have something with vouchers ready to go. We don't have something down there like, oh, we're going to fund private schools. We don't. Yeah, are you okay with allowing for funding for the student in the future? If you are, on Amendment 2, you would be a yes. If you do not want that, you would be a no. So I hope that kind of clarifies it, because that is really complex language on all of these. The other really important thing you need to know on the ballot, especially if you're a straight ticket, if you don't flip that ballot over, you're going to miss the constitutional amendments, you're going to miss these city ballot initiatives, you're going to miss school board members. There's a couple that are up for election. You're going to miss our city commissioners. That's them up for election. You're going to miss those if you do not flip that ballot over. So that's really important to know that. And please tell all your friends, flip the ballot over so that you get to see those. So that is really all I have to say on that. I know I was on the radio today. I don't know how many of you heard that. So we'd be talking about certificate need. I'm always happy to talk about that. But really, I think the most important things are these ballot initiatives. And if you have any questions about what's going on in Union or the county, I want to really turn over to you all the opportunity to ask us questions. Kim, right here, she's got a mic. If you just would raise your hand, stand up, please state your name and ask us your question, and we'd be happy to answer it.
Okay, always go for Larry first.
Amen.
Larry's our ruling here tonight, I guess. I'm Larry Mazzucchelli. I live in Belcham. I guess we're not Union City. We're just outliers, big outliers. We have almost our whole own city there. So I drive by Promenade and Braxton Graders area all the time. Have to. And they're great. They're lovely. My concern about the development is we're not going to be drinking beer. We're not going to be eating a lot of pizza. We're not going to be eating a lot of ice cream. What kind of dining options are there for adults who want something a little more refined?
Amen.
Is that
Well, that's the concept for the promenade part, is to get the higher end restaurants there. And you can say, well, okay, why aren't they there now? Okay, and I fully understand that too. But from a city standpoint, we have to keep them in line with the entertainment district first, and making sure that they follow those rules to do that. And TJ, you hear me all the time encouraging you to find as many high-end restaurants as we can. One of the things that is limiting us a little bit is the fact that we are a bedroom community, or we're the lunchtime crowds. And we're working on developing that. For example, the Chick-fil-A, when it comes in, will help the promenade be able to show that they have higher lunchtime crowds coming through there. Because when a restaurant looks at the data, they don't look at what's going to happen. They're looking at what has happened in the past. And so they're looking at us. And we had an opportunity to, and I'm going to say this anyway, but we had an opportunity to get First Watch to come in to Union. And it was supposed to be, as you're pulling in to the left-hand side, that was supposed to be there. And TJ worked his buns off to get First Watch in here. And he got it all the way up to senior management. And they pulled the plug on it. And I've been told, I don't know if you heard this or not, but they probably will end up at the Richwood exit. Why? Because it's closer to the freeway. Okay? And it's right there that they would go there. And they think that by coming to Union, it would take business away from the Florence store, which is totally false, because Liquid Graders has done, and its business. But my point is that through these guys, by keeping the entertainment district alive, where they're working their buns off to get those restaurants, and their mission is to go after high-end restaurants and get them, and that's what we're hoping to, and they're working on. So we're working on those things to fill that void.
Just, I don't want to take up a lot of time. Just to follow up, are there any grants for entrepreneurs? Are there any grants available for entrepreneurs, young people who want to open a restaurant because they're chefs and they're out of school and they don't want to work at
I understand.
X, Y, and Z?
No, I don't have any that I can spout off the top of my head. But one of the things is that we're also looking at is for other places. The building where our town center is, across the street from that is called Grandma still owns that property, and he's looking to develop that for those types of things in the future. Okay, and one of the things that will help, and it's a hindrance from the on the promenade side, is because of their costs and stuff, they offer things at a premium price on a per square foot basis. Okay, one of the things that limits them and their choices is that they're at a premium price. Hopefully, when Gramus develops his property and we can get some more properties developed, that those that are locally owned companies will come in at probably a lower price, and hopefully that will happen. So we're working on it. Thanks, Larry.
Good evening, my name's Margot Grubbs. I'm one of the local lawyers here for about 44 years, and I have some questions to you for this Amendment 2. This amendment that you said may allow the legislators to do things, that means exactly, I think, what you're saying, that would give you all the power if we change our Constitution, because right now you do not have that power. Is that correct? Correct. And if you look at the, well, you took it down, but the ballot provision eliminates, when it says notwithstanding, that means eliminates section 59, 60, 171, 183, 184, 186, and 189 of the Constitution. Correct?
I would say it works in complements with it. They're not going to be held to. That was a language that the Supreme Court found objectionable. So that is a language why these bills that have passed were deemed unconstitutional. So we would need to be able to change that language to, because of those specific things.
Correct.
Yes.
So the constitutional interpretation by the Supreme Court that said the last laws were unconstitutional was because we are protected as citizens by the Constitution, and you have to follow its mandates or our protections can be changed. Is that fair?
Correct. That's why we're looking for a constitutional amendment.
Right. So there's one inclination to change the Constitution after 150 years to allow 9% of all Kentucky students to potentially benefit from funding that is presently funding our public education program, which is always suffering one way or the other, and that if this passes, then you all will be free then to change things, and you could call it permission to get money from the state, ticket to get money from the state, permit to get money from the state, voucher to get money from the state. That money that we all pay in our taxes will go to 9% of all students in the state versus 93%. Isn't that correct?
I don't know where you're coming up with those numbers. I wouldn't say that's accurate. I would say programs that are really well established, the average people that partake of those are 2 to 4%. High end is 6%. So I'm not sure where you're coming up with the 9.
So when you refer to a lot of information is coming from both sides in reference to these amendments. And one of the issues that is coming is that Arizona, Ohio, Indiana are all facing public education shortfalls in their public schools because that means someone's going to lose their job. So when you all go back to, if this amendment would pass and you go back to the legislature and start passing laws then that affect people's ability to be funded in their schools, what laws are presently on the table or have been talked about? You were just in the committee education committee today. What kind of laws are you all talking about that's going to affect us if we allow an amendment change?
We didn't talk about that today. Actually, we got a report from the Kentucky Department of Education on how our students are doing in the public schools. And for people who would want to see that, I'd really encourage them to. By all metrics, every one of them is failing. So, that comes straight from the Kentucky Department of Education. And I'm really glad you brought up Arizona, because if you look deeper into that, it wasn't the school board. It wasn't the education that was deficient. That actually was in the black. And they were able to help bail out part of Arizona's pitfall, but it wasn't because of education. But my question is, so I hear you. So I hear your concern from the public schools, and I think we all need them to do better. What we heard from the Kentucky Department of Education today, that 35% of our high school Kids are proficient in reading. 45% of our kids across Kentucky are proficient in math. 6% of our high schoolers are proficient in science by the Kentucky Department of Education's own data that they released. So I would encourage you to look at that. My question, I'm for, we need good schools. I think we're all in agreement, we need good schools. My question to you is, why would anybody want to leave the public school? That's up to the parents to make that decision, and they should be able to. All we're asking is that it's really, what are we funding? Are we funding systems, or are we funding children?
Amen. Amen.
You know, I don't really want this to be a debate. I just want people to understand what this is, and I appreciate your question. I really do. It's a complex issue. This is why it's going to the voters, because we believe that the voters should have a say on what happens. I don't think anybody knows better about their kid than their parents and what type of education they need. And I myself, having been in healthcare and worked with special needs kids for 25 years, I can tell you it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are some kids that need different environments, different things. Kids learn differently, and to try to use one model, I don't think it's successful. And I think our numbers that came out today, if that's not disturbing, I don't know what is, but we've got to do something. And the answer that we heard from the Kentucky Department of Education is, well, we need to look at our standards and we need to look at our measurements. We need to look what's going on and how do we make these better? How do we make our public schools better? And what are the options for those who don't want to use public schools?
So my question to you is, so you're saying that if a private school does better, and there's no question that a lot of people do pay for parochial school here in Northern Kentucky, there's no question about it. If that's the case, and it's a small percentage, then isn't the problem fixing the public education system with proper funding, because you have education. Your educators in the state of Kentucky are not for this constitutional amendment.
$21,000 per child.
Okay.
$21,000.
Guys, I don't want this to be really a debate. I hear you. I hear you. And so for you, ma'am, I would encourage you to vote no. If this is something that you don't want to support, that's everybody's option that they're able to do. But it's my job to help educate, because this is very complex. Most people are not attorneys like yourself that haven't had years of practicing. Most people haven't picked up and read the Constitution. My job here is just to simply help people understand this complex language so that when they go, they can make good choices in understanding the ballot initiatives. That's all.
Hi, my name is Angie McMillan, and I'm questioning in regards to Amendment 2. So I'm coming here as a parent who removed my child from the public school a few years ago. And so I'm seeing great benefits in the private school that I placed him in. My concern is if I were to vote yes for this amendment, I know you said that it's to change the language and to allow for discussions, but I don't know what's going to come out of those discussions. So my concern is I removed my child from a government-funded school. I see benefits and I'm getting results with my child's education in a private school. I don't want the door to be open for the government to come in and get into the curriculum. And I mean, I would much rather sacrifice and pay the tuition knowing that my child's getting the education that I want him to have than have the government come in, which is what I took him out of. So that's my concern. And I don't know what the next step is after those discussions are made. And do I have a say in what is? That's just my question.
Great question. Yes, you will have a say. All of our legislation is highly vetted. When we have committee hearings, those are open to the public. You've reached out to me. We talk. I think it's important that people do that. But I will tell you, we hear loud and strong from homeschoolers and from private schools. Like, we don't want it. We don't want the government regulations. So one of the options could be what they had, the educational opportunity accounts, which were they were tax credits. It was a private donation, right? A private pay into these accounts for tax deduction, the government can't touch it. So they can't come in and tell private schools what to do. And homeschoolers are like, oh, we don't want it, you guys stay out of business. So it would be, I think, very narrow, and we just got to look at our options. You know, Kentucky is only one of 2 states in the entire United States that has no form of school choice. That's in North Dakota. So there's lots of models out there. We've had the opportunity from other states to see what works and what doesn't, but absolutely, and this would be, legislation moves slowly. Like, I would love to be with Mayor Solomon and have, you know, Christ or whoever breaking ground. I'd like to see a real children's hospital happen tomorrow, but, you know, a certificate need, these are things that move very slowly. I don't think there's an appetite to move it quickly like that and to impose government regulation on schools and private schools. So that would be one way that they could look at funding it. It would just be a discussion. Like, we don't even know. I can't even tell you. We really have no preconceived ideas. It's really just a discussion at this point.
But after those discussions, I would have a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One way or another, depending on what was written.
Yes, ma'am. I believe people are down there all the time.
There should be another constitutional vote, or is it?
Oh, another constitutional amendment?
There'll be no, after this vote, there's no more votes from the general voters.
There's no more on the amendments. Then we'd actually have to go back into scratch because of the language.
Your recourse is contacting your legislators. There's no more votes after this November.
Just contacting my representatives, and, I mean, you could take my comments if I'm the majority or not.
We take all, believe me, we take all comments. We get a lot of comments. All this constitutional amendment does is allow the discussion. I mean, that's all it does. So the vote for that, but since it's a constitutional amendment, you know, it takes 60% vote for it to pass. So all it does is allow the conversation. Then we kind of go back to the drawing board and really start all over because we don't have anything. We can't. Everything that we have is unconstitutional.
To be fair, going back, if the legislators themselves or their proclivities are one party or the other, that difference could make the rule of law to us as to what we are subjected to by that law you pass. Because we can't change it once you change our Constitution. Correct? You can't change the Constitution unless the whole populace votes to change it. That's about the only time we were ever able to say no, is when you propose it and we say no. If we say yes, then you get to change it by legislative session.
You get the option to put in another constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
We've done that with the U.S. Constitution on alcohol.
Over and over.
We banned it, and then we made it legal again. We can do the same thing with this.
I've got a question.
I've got a question back here. She's officially waiting.
21,000
My
per
name's
child.
Karen, and I moved here a year and a half ago from California. So when you say entertainment, I'm thinking of things like Universal Studios, Disneyland.
I know. That's a good point.
And I'm looking at the promenade.
I like that.
And I'm looking at it, that must be a nice park where people could take walks, and so I need detail, because I think I was born in 1967, and my definition of entertainment is maybe a little different than yours.
Just remember that this is Kentucky, so they're in California. All right. Entertainment, yeah. We have entertainment that is on the slightly lower. No, when we defined it, and as I said earlier, we defined it in terms of what we put together to put the project together is an industrial revenue bond that we had to put together for putting this together, just like Florence did for Turfway Park. They had an industrial revenue bond with them. We defined that as an entertainment district as I laid it out to you, okay? Meaning the intent was to have higher-end restaurants, bars for liquid refreshment, and that stuff. And the hope was to be able to go from one establishment to the other. And if you're drinking a drink, you can take it to the next place. In Ohio, they call it Dora? Dora, yeah. So that you can go from place to place and have those dispersed within the promenade. That was the definition that we gave to them, and we used the term entertainment district. We'll probably have to come up with another term when we do Disney World in Union, okay? But we'll get
Please don't do
there.
discount.
After we get to the hospitals that Marianne wants.
Amen.
I'm putting you on my list for Universal Studios to come to. So there you go.
I still have a question.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I live right down the street from Mayor Solomon. I have an easy question.
Yes.
Do you know what is...
You're my neighbor now.
I am your neighbor.
Take it easy.
Go visit this man on Halloween.
Yes.
I promise you won't be disappointed.
That's right, yes.
He knows me.
He knows you.
Do you know what is going specifically in the children's building? I have 3 kids. You know, ideally, my friends and I have, yeah, that's how you know you're like a mom, like approaching 40, when you're like, what do you think is gonna go in the new children's building?
Yeah.
Like an urgent care, is it imaging? We didn't know if you
To answer that question, I'm not going to say it. If you want to know what she is referring to me about Halloween, you can ask me after the meeting, and I'll tell you. Because we're in a church.
Yes.
Yes.
Baptist church.
It has to do with drinking shots. No, ma'am. The answer to that question is, I don't know. I don't know. TJ, do you got any idea?
I do.
Whoa.
Oh.
Good boss here.
Because a certificate of need, one of the things that's regulated is MRIs. So no, you may not have an MRI. All you may have in there, you can have physician services and some ancillary services. So probably like some PT, OT, speech, you know, those kinds of things you can have. Anything that requires ambulances, no. Ambulatory surgical centers, no. Anything, the things that children's is really known for, like exceptional cancer treatments, linear accelerators, no. All regulated by certificate of need.
Okay. Hold on a second. TJ, do you got any comment on that?
No, that's...
That covered it?
I was going to dumb it down. Anything that's not surgery they can do.
Yeah, okay. That's a simple answer. Yeah, go ahead.
Am I now?
Oh, yeah. Good.
Let me stand up.
I like your buttons.
Thank you. Aren't those great? I'm a little political person.
There's no politics here tonight, man.
No, but I do want to clarify something. 2 subjects. I'm very powerful on both of these. Number one, as far as the school choice, there seems to be a lot of mention of private versus public.
Yes.
In 2022, Boone County lost nearly 1,400 children from the public school to homeschools. Homeschools. Not Catholic, Christian. They wanted their children to be taught at home. Thank you, COVID, for enlightening many parents of what was going on. So I think we need to quit making this a public versus private and bring it back to the parents who discovered what was going on. Number 2, I am also of the age of Medicare, so I like to talk to certificate need. I get to change my provider. Thank you, St. Elizabeth, for no longer taking well care. I'm sick of this. I want to have an option. I love my St. Elizabeth physician, but I don't like my limited services. And I behave. Well, I get very emotional on this.
So my name is Mary Mitchell. I have an adopted foster child who has Kentucky Medicaid along the same lines with insurance. Will my child be able to utilize this awesome children's hospital? Because right now he can't cross the river.
Right.
We have to go
See?
to Lexington.
Right. That's one of the beauties of bringing children's here.
Thank you.
And we fought very hard with the developer to do that. Just FYI, they were just about, you know where the new Publix is going to go in across from the old Kroger? They were going to go there. They were going to build their building there. And we fought very hard to bring them to Union. And thank goodness we did, because that's really going to help us with all 3 of the entities there. And I promise you and everybody, each of them is going to be treated fairly, and hopefully that with the certificate of need being repealed, you can give greater choice, and that benefits each of the 3 entities that are in the city of Union.
Hi, I'm Sherry Smith, and I'm back
to the entertainment center. Because the way I understood it was we have a lot of fast food lunch restaurants. Makes it an entertainment center. And so I drove by in Independence, Highway 1716 intersection, and they're putting in at the Downs of Nicholson, and it's nowhere near a highway. And it has fine dining, First Watch, a coffee shop, a general store to actually go shopping with something fun, barleycorns, it's a horse barn theme, it has a brew house, it has event centers, and it has patio homes, all in that corner. And so again, Union has big neighborhoods with people who are looking for a place to take their spouse out to dinner to celebrate an anniversary, to take friends from out of town. And it was comical in our neighborhood, every sign that popped up on 42 was a fast food lunch restaurant. And then the next sign came up and it was a fast food lunch restaurant. And another sign came up and it was a fast food lunch restaurant. And everybody's like laughing. This is supposed to be the promenade. And to go into Independence, where there's no highway, there's no big high-end subdivisions, and they've got this beautiful Downs of Nicholson in the works. And I'm back to, I know we're not Disney World, I know we're not California, but we can, I think as Union, we can do better.
Yeah.
One of the things that we can do as a city, okay? One of the things that we did do as a city, okay, was to maintain the promise that they made to us based upon the outline that I laid out to you, which was the provisions that buildings stay at 6,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet with appropriate parking. They were allowed for 2 drive-throughs and 2 pickup windows. And they have a list of the stores that could go in there. That each of those buildings are targeted to high-end restaurants. We as the city teed that up in our agreement to maintain those rules to follow for the developer. And let me explain. If we made that variance for the Aldi store, and again, nothing against Aldi's, what that would do would be to change that entertainment district from that to just a retail outlet like Florence. So we're maintaining that to do that. Now, we can't control the rates that they charge for each on a square foot basis, but what we can do is make sure they fall within the rules that they can and keep encouraging them to get there. If you go into Independence too, just FYI, just says, and it says, and tell me, I agree with your comment totally. So and we're going to keep working harder to do that, okay? But just if you go into Independence, and you know where the Aldi store is in the Independence there? What's next to the Aldi store is a Dollar Tree. What's next to the, there's a tire discounter. And if you go around to anywhere Aldi is located, you will find those 2 outlets near the Aldi store. And and I understand. No, I understand it. Oh no, let me finish my point. Okay, no, my point was that if we granted that variance, that type of thing would have been into the promenade, not the entertainment district. We maintain the entertainment district so they follow the rules. Now, what we need to do is to do exactly what you're saying and push them harder to make sure that we get those types of restaurants, we get there, and that's what we're trying to do. And I agree with you, we need to do that, and we're working on it, okay? But that was my point about Aldi, so I hope you understand.
Hi, my name is Katrina, and I have a question about the medicinal cannabis. And Jesse, it starts, I guess, with your first comment. I'm a little, I guess, confused, or I don't understand what Boone County said no to, but why is it on the ballot for something for Union? And does it mean what I think it says, that in the city of Union, which not everybody knows that just because your address is Union, you are not in the city of Union. So if this is something that passed, if it is a yes,
it would be a very small city of Union limit of where something like this would happen, and would that mean a business like the vape shops that are being turned down, but this is something that would be allowed? And where would one of these businesses be possibly located? Across from Ryle, maybe an entertainment district of Union Promenade, or where? Or in my backyard, not my backyard, but somebody's backyard. If I understand, maybe, Marianne, did you say it could be little or big? I mean, I don't.
Well, there's a few hurdles to jump there. First, I was enjoying watching Larry and Marianne behind the hot seat, and I got more into county because I figured life in Boone County was perfect. But to answer your question, so that's the first step in the hurdle. So the state had XYZ licenses to give throughout the whole region per district. And so just because you vote, if it passes in Union, they still have to want to come and apply for a license there.
So did somebody want it from Union?
I don't know. So at the county, so at the county, we had spoke to a lot of stakeholders, a conversation amongst ourselves. We knew it was too broad, and we couldn't pick. You don't know which kind of business you're going to get to apply. So at the county, we have a lot of space for manufacturing or processing and places like that, which is often, and out of the way, and that might be one thing. But to have the dispensary set up, like you mentioned, we would have to allow any of it if someone wanted to apply. And so we chose to say nothing until we can figure out with anything new when the bugs got worked out, because we can always opt in later. And so as legislation changes, as the state maybe sees problems that come up or challenges that come up with the medical marijuana, and they change and legislate accordingly, we can opt in later should we choose to, or should our constituents want us to, or we just stay where we're at and say we're fine without it. If the cities took no action, so when we did our action, the cities then, and in Boone County you have 3 incorporated cities. You got Walton, you got Union, you got Florence. And I think the 3 of those cities make up maybe 15%-ish of the population. The majority of Boone County is unincorporated. And so with the cities, they had 2 choices. They could do nothing, which would fall under what we did, or they could take their own action. I'm not sure what Walton did. Walton opted out like we did. So the city of Union, the city of Florence, with their separate elected bodies, decided they could have either opted out, they could have opted in, or put a ballot referendum on. And so I think they both chose the ballot referendum, which voters are going to see. If you live in the city of Union or the city of Florence, it's going to be on your ballot. We didn't like the ballot initiative because there's a lot of misinformation out there. We had a lot of people contacting us to show up to our court meetings just for the legalization use of it. And we had to explain over and over, this is not about use, this is about a zoning thing. But there's just a lot of misinformation out there about it being so fresh and new. We decided to just pump the brakes and let's see what happens, and then we can opt in later should we choose to.
All right. Can I address Katrina's issue from my side? Okay. All right. First of all, how many licenses, Marianne, are there going to be allotted for the state?
For the state, our area is 2.
Our area is 4. Our area is 2. Okay. So the likelihood of Union getting a license is pretty low. Okay. So 2 out of the entire northern Kentucky district probably would be low. That's one point. The other point is that we felt that we work for you guys, and we think that it's good for the people to decide whether or not they want it. But Union is different than Boone County. Okay, Union has very small spaces. Well, I know it's kind of funny that we're different. We're small, they're bigger. Okay, I got it. But the point is that our space is very limited to any type of that production that would occur. Okay, Boone County would have to deal with production and development because they have a lot of space for that. And I understand their reasons for their vote. But us would be merely the only thing that, if by chance we would get one, would be for a dispensary type of outlet. And those things are different than a vape shop or anything. Those are highly regulated, and they're different for that. But what we felt was that we think that our residents should tell us what they want. And we'll see how it turns out at the ballot box. It's banned in Union until the vote. Okay, so it's banned there. But we'll see how the vote turns out. And I'm highly confident that it won't pass. But we gave the residents the chance to make that decision.
Chet Hand, Boone County Commissioner. So on the discussion of the cannabis businesses and things, two other points that were part of the discussion related to that, just to help clarify, like Representative Proctor said, the ballot measure language is generally confusing. This has nothing to do with legalizing marijuana, it has to do with zoning, but zoning laws are very broad. So what's allowed within certain zoning within our county or city, we can't specifically say we only want dispensaries, we don't want growing operations. We cannot target and pick specific businesses, types, sizes, etc. When you authorize zoning within the county or the legislative bodies, the cities, etc., it's a big, broad brush stroke. So when we heard a lot of testimony, about this type of zoning in our county. The negative aspects of having medical marijuana and then eventually recreational marijuana are directly related to proximity to locations. So one of the conversation points we had was, it's not about legalizing or not legalizing, it's about the proximity of these facilities within our community around churches or schools or neighborhoods, etc. People that would like to have medical marijuana still have an opportunity to go get it. It's not, we just don't have those facilities in direct proximity to our community. It was part of our target. The other thing with that is the licenses are issued on a lottery basis. So we have no idea what type is going to show up in our community. People can apply for anything and it's issued on a lottery basis.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Feel free to hang out and chat with us if you've got additional things that we didn't address.
Thank you.